Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I want to talk a little bit about Ben Whittaker because on Saturday night on the undercard of the Bivol Beterbiev Riyadh show, there was that bizarre ending against Liam Cameron where they both went over the top rope and Cameron managed to crawl back in, got back to his corner, but Whittaker apparently suffered a leg injury and was taken out in a wheelchair. And the fight was scored after 5 rounds. The fifth round was also scored. The fifth round was where the accident happened. And it was a draw. It was a technical 5-round draw. And a lot of people have said that Whittaker is kind of got out of jail because of that injury. And I agree. But I'm not going to be one of those people that says he faked the injury because I don't know. Honestly, don't know. Of course, whenever you make an accusation like that, it's possible that he faked it. But I want evidence. If you're going to cast aspersions on a bloke, I want some evidence. And if, for all I know, he may have had a damaged leg. People have said, well, his leg didn't hit anything. No, but his foot did land on the floor, not the ring apron, but the floor. And the jolt may have caused some injury to his ankle, possibly his knee, a jolt to the knee. We don't know is what I'm saying. I just don't know. But I do agree that the fight exposed him to some degree, to some extent. And I've always felt that the jury is out with Ben Whittaker. Now, he currently stands at 8 wins with 5 KOs, 1 draw, that technical draw against Liam Cameron. Cameron, just for the record, fell to 26 wins, 6 KOs, none of them by stoppage, by the way. None of his defeats are by stoppage. He's got that 1 draw. Can't get the rub of the green, can he, Liam Cameron? Terrific servant to the game, Commonwealth champ. Just can't seem to win the big ones, can he? But let's talk about Whittaker. Is he overrated? Is he all flash, dash, and no substance? And was he exposed against the tough veteran, wily veteran, durable veteran in Liam Cameron? Well, I think, let's put it this way. I didn't like what I saw on Saturday as far as Ben Whittaker's concerned. In the ring, I mean, when he was fighting. And I thought that this was turning out to be a very, very testing time for Mr. Whittaker. Look, 8-0-1 is his record. He turned pro in July of 2022. His second fight actually was against a guy I never heard of, who was undefeated in 6, and he won a unanimous decision. Won virtually every round. He's had runarounds with, standard journeyman. He did fight earlier this year in March. He fought a guy called Leon Willings, who is a young lad, came in with a 7-1 record. Only 23 at the time, I think he was. And he was floored in the first round, but he took Whittaker the distance. And it was there that questions began to get asked about Whittaker, because Whittaker couldn't, even though he put Willings down in the first round, this was an inexperienced kid, a novice, very unheralded, probably area level. I think Willings had actually won the Central Area title. By the way, he's since lost a 10-rounder for the English light heavyweight title. He lost it to undefeated fighter called Troy Jones, who was 10-0, or now 11-0, was 10-0 at the time. He won a few rounds, but it was pretty much a clear enough win for Troy Jones. So if you compare and contrast, Whittaker, he won, I think the scorecard was 78-73, so he won most of the rounds. But against a guy like Willings, 8-rounder, down in the first, should really have finished him off. People will certainly, if they weren't beforehand, they were starting to say, hang on a minute, does this bloke have any power? And yes, again, Whittaker, very flashy, very fast, stand-up style, 6'3", 27 years old, Olympic silver medalist. So he's got the range, he's got the ranginess, he's got the speed, nice speed of hand, pretty decent with his feet. Quite a, conventional style, really. Nothing. He's not like, people say, he's like Nassim Hamed because he's brash and he's arrogant and he talks a lot of trash. And He loves himself, but there's really nothing to compare him to Nassim Hamed. Nassim Hamed had an extremely unorthodox style and also had incredible power for a featherweight. In fact, he started his career as a flyweight and ended up being featherweight champ, winning several belts. Whitaker, to me, the jury is out whether he even gets to European level at the moment, especially after the Cameron fight. Because if you look at that fight, by the way, after the Willings fight, that was in March of this year. He then, in June, had a fight against an undefeated guy whose name escapes me. I should have looked this up. But this was for one of those IBF trinkets. It was for an international title to try and leapfrog and get him ranked. Whitaker, was that the guy's name? An African fellow who gate crashed one of Whitaker's press conferences and demanded the fight. And so Ben Shalom, who is Whitaker's promoter, made the fight. And again, Whitaker was taking the distance. He won every round, maybe bar one, maybe. I thought he won every round, but I think a couple of the judges gave him maybe one round. And again, he was kind of a little bit exposed as being a little bit lacking in imagination, a little bit of lack of variety, and certainly a lack of power. And then that brings us to, October, what happened on Saturday on the undercard of the Bivol and Beterbiev fight, a big showcase, a big platform, the Riyadh season, his first gig on the Riyadh stage. And he started quick as normal, but Cameron, this was a 10-rounder, wasn't it? Or was it? Was it a 12-rounder? I think it was a 10-rounder. I could be wrong about that. I should have checked. But the point was that after 3 rounds, Whitaker was looking a little bit like he was breathing heavy. Let's put it that way. All right, he'd done the 12 rounds against Mr. Whitaker or whatever his name was, but there was a steady bit of pressure being put on by Cameron, and he upped the ante, certainly in the 4th round. In fact, I'd say he had some success in the 3rd round as well. The first one I thought definitely Whitaker won. Second one, okay, you want to give that to Whitaker. 3rd one I gave to Cameron. Or was it the other way around? Was it the 2nd and the 3rd round? I know I had Whitaker 2-1 up after 3 rounds. Then I gave the 4th definitely to Cameron, and I thought Cameron was putting the heat on Whitaker. And when you consider that the fight wasn't even half done, Whitaker again was being dragged, sort of sucked almost into a fight. And even though he was slower, even though he was slower of foot and as well as fist, Cameron seemed to be dragging Whitaker into a fight, making him fight at a pace he wasn't comfortable with. And this smacked to me of Whitaker being a front runner, being someone who looks very good when he's having things his own way. But once he's taken out of his comfort zone, I'm not saying he mentally unravels, but he begins to look a little bit lacking in variety, lacking in gears, like he didn't have that extra gear to go up, and lacking in a bit of durability as well. Because that brings us to the 5th round, where Cameron picked up where he left off and really started putting some heat on Whitaker. And then Whitaker was definitely feeling the pace. There was some good work from Cameron. He went to the body quite well, landed some decent punches, started to land more punches to the head, actually, with more accuracy, I should say. And definitely, it was, I can't remember what point of the round it was. I think we'd had at least 2 minutes of the round, maybe a little more, but they've pushed, the fact that Cameron was able to manhandle and almost ragdoll Whitaker back onto the ropes and then push him. And of course, they both flipped over the top rope. The ropes looked a bit slack, to be honest with you. And they both ended up on the ring apron. It didn't really look like Whitaker was he had a lot left in the gas tank, and B, he didn't look like he could physically, in terms of just raw strength, match Cameron. Now, this would be kind of forgivable if Whitaker was, say, 22 and hadn't got his man strength. If he wasn't anywhere near his prime, you'd say, okay, this is a learning fight against a tough old pro. Cameron's 33, but Whitaker's actually 27. So you would think he would be getting into his prime, into his physical prime, and that he would have the physical strength to go with all that, piss and vinegar, all that flashiness, and the quick feet and the fast hands and the. Now, I'm not writing Whitaker off totally, but I'm saying definitely there are alarm bells that went off in that fight with Cameron, and they were definitely alarm bells that kind of verified the concerns that were shown in the Willings fight, Leon Willings fight, and to a lesser extent the Whitaker fight, because he couldn't get rid of either of those two. And Willings is a good tough young pro. Whitaker was limited, very limited, quite tough, but again he was sort of sagging a bit. Whitaker was in that fight, and Whitaker, you got the feeling Whitaker should have got rid of him. If he'd have had the gears to go through, he should have stopped him in about 7, 8, 9, certainly 9 rounds. Instead, he got taken the 10-round distance. So his failure to get rid of Willings and Whitaker did show a lack of power. He just doesn't look like he can punch very hard for his weight. And he doesn't look like he's got a lot of physical strength. And if you have all those flashy skills, yes, they can take you to a certain level. You can outbox the lesser, the plodders and the guys who don't hit very hard and the guys who aren't particularly physically strong. But if you meet someone who is not going to roll over, I think we've already seen what might happen with Ben Whittaker. So I think these are real alarming signs for Whittaker. And of course, the fact that so many people have been deriding him for this, even though he's a silver medalist, even though he's still undefeated, is because he is a showboater. He's a loudmouth. He loves himself. He says he's wonderful. He says he's a fantastic fighter. He does all that, nonsense in the ring, all that, skipping and dancing and poking his tongue out and hanging his hands low and doing a little jig and a little jitterbug and all this. Look, a lot of people like showboating. I don't. I think it's bullshit. All right, I've got no time for it. I think it is what the younger people nowadays call cringe. All right. Not cringy, it's cringe, okay? So, no, not for me at all. Not for me at all. Got nothing against the bloke. Maybe if I met him, I'd like him. Not likely to meet him. So I'm just going to say, from the outside looking in, I find all that showboating boring. And that is it. It's boring. It doesn't offend me. It just bores me, okay? Whenever someone does that in the ring, I think, yeah, will you get on with it? I'm here to see a fight. I'm here to see a boxing match. I'm not here to see some tit, spin around on his head like that dozy Aussie bird who was doing the break dancing at the Olympics. I want to see a proper fight. I want to see a proper boxing match. I want to see some skills. And he does have some skills, Whittaker. But does he have the endurance? Does he have the gears to go through? Does he have the durability? I don't know. 27. You'd think he would, but it don't look like it to me. But what do you think? What do you think? I definitely had Cameron winning that fight, by the way. I thought Liam Cameron won that fight 3-2 in rounds, if you have to count the fifth round. I think Whittaker did get out of jail with a technical draw. And I think Liam Cameron was very, very unlucky. But let me know what you think. What's your opinion on Ben Whittaker? Do you think he can go far? Do you think the jury's still out? Do you think he's rubbish? Do you think he's all flash and no substance? Or do you think he's actually once he learns the pro game a bit better, yeah, he can go places. I mean, it's not over yet for him, don't get me wrong. But, let me know what you think. Comments below, and, of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you very much for watching this video. Yeah, I always appreciate it. I know I say this, but I really do. And if you could hit the like button as well if you liked it, that would be great too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed your Monday, and I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.